The Haelor Empire had always looked down on humans. To them, Earth was just another insignificant planet in the vast galaxy, home to primitive species and weak civilizations. For centuries, the Empire had dominated the stars, conquering one system after another. They believed no species could stand in their way. But that would all change today. As the Haelor fleet moved toward Earth's solar system, the ships were as confident as they had ever been. Their massive warships, sleek and powerful, cut through the stars with precision and ease. Their commanders laughed, certain that the human race posed no real threat. The fleet's leader, Commander Varak, stood at the helm of his flagship, the Vanguard, staring down at the blue planet that would soon be nothing more than a memory. "It will be an easy conquest," Varak muttered to himself, adjusting his helmet. "Our enemies will not even know what hit them." The fleet was prepared for a swift and overwhelming attack. Earth had no real defenses that could match the power of the Haelor Empire's ships. The humans had no knowledge of the advanced weaponry or tactics the Empire wielded. Earth was vulnerable, and it was only a matter of time before their cities fell. As the Haelor ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the first strike was planned. With a signal from the commander, the fleet would unleash everything they had. They would destroy Earth's defense systems, and the rest would fall into place. But just as the Haelor ships prepared to launch their missiles and energy weapons, something unexpected happened. The lone human vessel appeared from the shadows of a nearby asteroid field. At first, it seemed like a small, insignificant ship, just a single speck compared to the massive Haelor warships. "Is that it?" laughed Commander Varak. "They send a single ship to stop us." The Haelor fleet began to laugh. They had expected some resistance, but surely this tiny human ship posed no threat. It had no shields, no advanced weaponry. It looked like nothing more than an old cargo ship, nothing more than a distraction. Varak ordered his fleet to ignore it. It wasn't worth their time. But as the Haelor ships locked onto Earth's defenses, the tiny human vessel began to do something unexpected. It moved with incredible speed, darting through the asteroid field with ease, its maneuvers sharp and precise. It wasn't just a cargo ship. The Haelor fleet had misjudged the humans completely. "Send it to the scrap heap," Varak barked, waving a dismissive hand. "This will be over before it even starts." The Haelor ships began to fire their weapons, sending waves of energy blasts toward the human vessel. But instead of breaking apart like they had expected, the human ship dodged and weaved through the blasts with an agility that shocked everyone. Then something incredible happened. The human ship turned and fired back, unleashing a burst of energy that slammed into one of the Haelor warships. The blast shook the Haelor ship, knocking out its weapon systems for a brief moment. The crew aboard the damaged ship scrambled to regain control, panic setting in. The Haelor fleet had never seen anything like this before. The human vessel was not just surviving. It was fighting back. Commander Varak's eyes widened as he watched the battle unfold. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technology is advanced." The Haelor fleet had underestimated humanity. They had assumed Earth was a weak, defenseless planet, full of primitive life forms. But the humans had something the Haelor Empire hadn't expected, a secret weapon hidden in plain sight. As the battle raged on, more Haelor ships began to take damage. The humans' weapons, though smaller and seemingly less powerful than those of the Haelor Empire, were much more precise. The Haelor ships tried to regroup, but the human ship had already moved into a new position, taking out another warship. The Haelor fleet's confidence was quickly turning to panic. They had thought the humans were nothing, but now they realized how wrong they were. They had underestimated Earth. "Fall back," Varak shouted, now seeing the situation spiral out of control. "We need reinforcements now." But it was too late. The tiny human ship wasn't alone anymore. Hidden deep in Earth's atmosphere, another surprise was waiting to be unleashed. The Vanguard ship wasn't the only secret humanity had kept hidden. There was an entire fleet, ready to strike. As more and more Haelor ships began to retreat, The true force of Earth's hidden military might begin to reveal itself. Humanity's secrets were far from over, and the Haelor Empire would soon learn that when they attacked Earth, they had made a fatal mistake. But it was already too late. The hidden fleet had launched its full attack. The Haelor Empire, with all its advanced technology and weaponry, was now in full retreat, unable to fight back against the sheer power of Earth's secret military. On board the human ship, Captain Adams watched with a fierce sense of pride. The fleet had been built with one goal in mind: to protect Earth at all costs. Now, humanity's secret was out, and the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. But even as the Haelor ships fled, Adams knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would regroup, and they would return with even more firepower. The battle wasn't over yet. The Haelor might have made the first mistake by attacking Earth, but they would soon make a bigger one by underestimating humanity. "We've made our stand," Captain Adams said quietly. "Now we fight to protect everything." As the human fleet moved forward, the Haelor Empire's retreat turned into a rout. Their ships flowed into deep space, damaged and destroyed. But the war for Earth had only just begun. Earth's hidden fleet had risen, and it was here to stay. A dangerous message. The battle was far from over, but as the Haelor Empire's fleet retreated, it left behind more than just debris. Their retreat was not just a sign of their defeat. It was also a signal to something much bigger, something more dangerous. Captain Sarah Adams stood on the bridge of the human vessel, staring out at the remnants of the Haelor ships. Her eyes were sharp, her face unreadable. The victory had been overwhelming, but she knew better than to let her guard down. Something was coming. "Lieutenant Cale," she called, breaking the silence. "Any sign of reinforcements?" Cale, sitting at his station, typed rapidly, his fingers dancing across the console. His face was filled with concern as he scanned the data. "Nothing yet, Captain. The Haelor are retreating, but they're leaving the battlefield in a hurry. Whatever it is, they're running from something, or they're warning someone." Adams furrowed her brow. The Haelor were not known for their fear. They were relentless, aggressive, and yet something had made them pull back so quickly. It didn't make sense. Was there a greater threat on the way? Or were the Haelor simply regrouping for a stronger attack? Before she could voice her concerns, the communications officer, Lieutenant Tessa, interrupted. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's encrypted, but the signal is from the highest level." Adams quickly turned her attention to the communication screen. "Put it through." The screen flickered before the image of General Martin Pierce, the commander of Earth's military forces, appeared. His face was stern, his expression tight. "Captain, I need you to listen carefully," he began, his voice tense. "The Haelor Empire is not the only threat. There is something else. A much bigger force is moving toward us." Adam's heart skipped a beat. A bigger force. It was hard to imagine anything more dangerous than the Haelor. The galaxy's most feared empire had just been pushed back by Earth's secret fleet. What could possibly be more terrifying? "General, what do you mean?" she asked, her voice calm but filled with unease. Pierce's expression darkened. "We've intercepted intel. A fleet, unlike any we've ever seen before, is on its way. It's not just a military force, it's a full invasion. They've been tracking the Haelor's movements, and now they know humanity is a threat. We've just learned who they are, and trust me, you don't want to mess with them." Adams leaned forward. "Who are they?" Pierce's lips tightened as he spoke, the words almost reluctant. "The Kiteri, an ancient empire, far older and more advanced than the Haelor. They've wiped out entire civilizations before. The Haelor's retreat wasn't just strategic. They've been running from the Kiteri." The name struck Adams like a blow to the chest. The Kiteri were legends, stories told in whispers. They were feared by even the most powerful empires in the galaxy, their origins shrouded in mystery. And now, they were coming for Earth. The hidden fleet. The Haelor Empire's retreat was swift, but it was not unnoticed. As the first wave of their fleet turned and fled from the unexpected human assault, Commander Varak struggled to regain control. His eyes were still wide with disbelief, unable to process what had just happened. A single human vessel had made them retreat. They hadn't expected such a fight. They hadn't expected Earth to have anything capable of matching their might. Yet, the shock of the battle wasn't over. The real surprise was only just beginning. Inside the human ship, the crew, led by Captain Sarah Adams, quickly assessed the damage done to the Haelor ships. They had proven that humanity wasn't as weak as the Haelor Empire believed, but they had also uncovered something far more dangerous. The humans weren't fighting alone. Captain, the ship's communications officer, Lieutenant Haelor, said, his voice trembling with excitement, "We're picking up strange signals from Earth's atmosphere. It's coming from all over. There's something hidden down there." Captain Adams leaned forward, her mind racing. She had expected Earth to be vulnerable, surrounded by old, untested defenses. But this was something else, something that was not supposed to exist. "Activate the secondary scans," she ordered, her voice calm but with an edge of urgency. "Let's find out what we're dealing with." The communications officer quickly obeyed, his fingers flying over the controls. He was trying to decipher the signals, but it was clear that these were no ordinary transmissions. They were encrypted and deeply buried, almost as if someone had gone to great lengths to hide them. "Captain," Lieutenant Haelor said, his voice now filled with both confusion and awe, "it looks like a fleet. Hundreds of ships, hidden beneath Earth's surface. It's a military formation unlike anything we've ever seen." Adam's heart skipped a beat. "Impossible," she whispered. "We thought Earth was defenseless, that it had no way of protecting itself. How could they have kept something like this hidden?" She didn't have to wonder for long. A series of explosions suddenly lit up the horizon. The human ship's sensors pinged, and they saw the fleet. Earth's hidden fleet had just revealed itself to the galaxy. As soon as the Haelor ships had retreated, Earth had activated its secret weapons. But this wasn't just any fleet. It was an advanced fleet, armed to the teeth with technology that was far more advanced than anything the Haelor Empire had ever encountered. These ships had been designed in secrecy, built over the years as humanity prepared for a threat they knew might one day come. The ships were sleek and fast, their hulls reinforced with alloys that made them nearly indestructible. The weapons were unlike anything the Haelor had ever seen, firing blasts of energy so precise and powerful that they seemed almost unreal. There were hundreds of them, emerging from hidden bases all over the Earth. They moved as one, coordinated and deadly, surrounding the remaining Haelor ships like a swarm of angry hornets. In the flagship of the Haelor fleet, Commander Varak watched in horror as the human fleet moved into position, blocking their escape route. His hands trembled as he ordered his ships to regroup. "We can't escape, Commander. We're surrounded," the tactical officer said, his voice strained. Varak clenched his fists, trying to maintain control. "This can't be happening. We underestimated them. We didn't know they had this fleet." He turned to face the view screen, watching as the human ships powered up their weapons and began their assault. The fleet had caught them by surprise, and now the Haelor Empire was about to feel the full force of Earth's hidden might. The first blast struck one of the Haelor warships, sending it spiraling into chaos. The ship exploded in a burst of fire and debris as the human fleet made its move. Each ship fired with deadly accuracy, targeting the weakest points of the Haelor ships, cutting through their defenses with ease. "We need to pull back," Varak barked. "Get us out of here now." "How much time do we have?" Adams asked, already bracing for the worst. "Not much," Pierce replied. "The Kiteri will arrive within days, and they won't stop until they've eradicated everything in their path. We need to prepare. I'm sending everything we have to assist you. But, Captain, Earth's survival depends on your fleet now. You need to hold off the Kiteri until reinforcements arrive." The screen flickered again, and Pierce's face disappeared. The transmission ended, but the weight of his words hung in the air. The Carry were coming. And they weren't just coming for a fight. They were coming for the end of humanity. As the gravity of the situation settled in, Captain Adams gave a sharp command to her crew. "Prepare the fleet. We have a war to win, and it's about to get much worse." The human fleet, still basking in the glow of their unexpected victory over the Haelor, now had an even bigger challenge ahead. Adams turned to her officers, each one knowing the true danger they faced. "Lieutenant Haelor," she ordered, "get me a full scan of the Carry fleet. I want to know everything about them. No surprises this time." Haelor quickly set to work, his fingers flying over the controls. The tension on the bridge grew, everyone silently praying that they would be ready. But Captain Adams knew better than to hope for luck. This was not a battle of chance. It was a battle for survival. And the Carry were not going to make it easy. The Carry are here. The atmosphere on the bridge of the human vessel had shifted. The once bustling energy had now been replaced by a tense silence. Captain Sarah Adams stood at the command center, eyes fixed on the star streaks outside the windows. The massive fleet of the Carry was just beyond the horizon of their sector, closer than anyone had expected. Humanity had been given only days to prepare, and those days were now slipping through their fingers. "Report, Lieutenant Haelor," she said, her voice steady, though every muscle in her body was wound-tight. Haelor was at his station, his fingers moving with practiced speed over the controls. "Captain, we've located the Carry fleet. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Massive, highly advanced. And they're not just in this sector. The Carry are surrounding us. There's nowhere to hide." A heavy silence followed, as each person on the bridge absorbed the gravity of Haelor's words. The Carry were here. The empire that had destroyed entire worlds with ease was now within striking distance of Earth, and the human fleet, they were the only thing standing between their home and complete annihilation. Adams took a deep breath. "What are we dealing with, Haelor? How many ships? And do we have any chance of survival?" Haelor glanced at the tactical display before him, his face pale. "There are at least 50 Carry warships in this fleet. Some of them are massive dreadnoughts with firepower capable of obliterating entire planets. We've never seen ships like this before. They're beyond even the Haelor in terms of technology. They don't leave survivors. I don't know if we can survive this." Adams felt a chill run through her. The Haelor, despite their retreat, were powerful in their own right, but the Carry were something else entirely. They were an ancient race, one that the galaxy feared. Every piece of intel they had gathered about them was shrouded in uncertainty, but one thing was clear: the Carry came to conquer, to erase. "Lieutenant Tessa," Captain Adams called, her voice tight. "Can we get any reinforcements from Earth? Any word from General Pierce?" Tessa, sitting at the communication station, shook her head. "Nothing yet, Captain. Earth is in complete lockdown. No fleets are coming to help. The Carry are blocking all outgoing communications. It's as if they've prepared for this moment." Adams clenched her fists. They were on their own. She knew this battle would require more than just strength. It would require everything humanity had. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon in the fleet would have to be used. And still, there was no guarantee they would win. A new voice broke through the tension. "Captain, we've just received a transmission," Tessa reported, her eyes widening. "It's coming from the Carry fleet." Adams turned toward her. "Put it on screen." The display flickered, and for a moment, there was nothing but static. Then the image cleared to reveal a tall, imposing alien figure. Its skin was a deep shade of purple, and its eyes glowed a fierce yellow. The Carry spoke in a language that no one aboard the human ship understood, but there was an unmistakable malice in its voice, even without translation. "Humans," the alien said, its voice like ice. "You think you stand a chance. You are nothing. You are weak, like all the others before you. You will fall. Surrender now, and we will grant you a quick death. Resist, and we will make you suffer as we have done to countless civilizations. Your species will be erased." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The crew on the bridge exchanged nervous glances, but it was Captain Adams who broke the silence. "We're not surrendering," she said, her voice cold with determination. "If they think we'll fall without a fight, they've made a fatal mistake. We are humanity. We fight until the end." The Qatari had underestimated Earth before, and they would do so again. Adams knew their fleet was outmatched. They had no idea how to defeat such a powerful enemy. But one thing was certain: humans would not go down without a fight. "Lieutenant Haelor, I want every ship to be in combat readiness," Adams ordered, her eyes burning with resolve. "Prepare all weapons. We will make the Qatari understand that humanity is not to be underestimated." The bridge was alive with activity as the crew sprang into action. The human fleet was ready. They had no illusions about the difficulty of the battle ahead, but they had something the Qatari couldn't anticipate. They had the will to survive. Even when the odds seemed impossible, humanity had always fought back, and this time would be no different. Adams looked out the viewport once more. The Qatari ships loomed in the distance, their dark, intimidating silhouettes growing closer. The time for preparation had passed. The time for battle had arrived. With one final glance at her crew, Captain Adams gave the order: "Engage the Qatari fleet." The first clash. The cold, silent void of space was about to erupt into chaos. Captain Sarah Adams stood tall, her mind racing as the Qatari fleet loomed in front of them. Her pulse quickened as she glanced around the bridge. The crew was focused, their eyes hard with determination. The fear that had gripped them earlier was gone, replaced by a shared understanding. This was it. The time for hesitation was over. They had no reinforcements, no backup. It was them against the Qatari. "Captain," Lieutenant Haelor's voice broke through the tension. "We have incoming. The Qatari are opening fire." On the view screen, the massive Qatari dreadnoughts charged up their weapons, bright blue beams of energy lancing out into space. The human fleet was barely in position when the first wave of energy strikes hit. The ship shuddered under the force of the blasts, alarms blaring across the bridge. "Brace for impact," Captain Adams shouted. The ship rocked again as another salvo of energy shots hammered their shields. Sparks flew from the control panels, but the human ship held firm. The shields flickered, but they didn't fail. For now, they were holding, but it was only a matter of time before the Qatari broke through. "Return fire," Adams ordered, her voice unwavering. "Lock onto the lead dreadnought, and fire all weapons." The crew moved quickly, working in perfect unison. The ship's cannons roared to life, unleashing a barrage of bright white laser fire. The beams ripped through space, hitting the Qatari flagship. For a moment, it seemed like they might have done some damage. Then the dreadnought's shields flared brightly, absorbing the blasts without a scratch. "Damn," Haelor muttered under his breath, watching the Qatari ship recoil, but only slightly. "Their shields are stronger than we thought." "We knew that," Adams replied coolly. "Keep firing. We've got to make them feel something." The human fleet fought fiercely, each ship maneuvering to avoid incoming fire while unleashing every weapon they had. The Qatari retaliated with brutal efficiency, launching their own deadly beams and missiles. The battle was a dance of destruction, with ships weaving through the firestorm, trying to land hits while avoiding their enemies' wrath. Captain Adams kept her focus, her mind calculating every move, every possibility. They had no chance of winning in a direct confrontation, but she wasn't about to give up without using every trick they had. "Lieutenant Tessa," she barked, "what about our hidden weapons?" Tessa's fingers flew over the controls. "Captain, the decoy missiles are ready. Shall we deploy them?" Adam's eyes glinted with a sharp edge of strategy. Do it. If we can't win in power, we'll win in cunning. The decoy missiles were small, unassuming, and mostly used for misdirection. They wouldn't hurt the K'Kari, but they would cause confusion. And in a battle where every second counted, that confusion could buy them time. Time to rethink their strategy, time to regroup. Deploying now, Tessa said. The screen showed a flash of missiles shooting from the fleet, streaking toward the K'Kari ships. The K'Kari fleet, seeing the missiles but unable to detect their true purpose, began to scatter, trying to evade what they assumed was a new wave of human weapons. For a moment, the K'Kari hesitated, and that was all the human fleet needed. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Human ships used the brief lull to regroup, reorganizing their positions in preparation for the next wave of attacks. Keep the pressure on them, Adams commanded. But don't overextend. We need to last longer than they expect. The bridge was alive with activity as the crew followed orders. Adams knew this was just the beginning. The K'Kari wouldn't back down easily. But for the first time in the battle, it felt like the humans were fighting on equal footing. They weren't going to win this fight by strength alone. They had to outsmart the K'Kari, outmaneuver them. The K'Kari were used to being the superior force, and that was their weakness. Incoming, Haelor shouted suddenly. A massive explosion rocked the ship as a K'Kari missile barrage slammed into the human vessel's shields. The crew members gritted their teeth, bracing for the worst. We've lost power to the aft thrusters, Tessa cried out. Shields are down to 40%. Not good, Haelor muttered, his hands flying over the controls. We can't keep this up for long, Captain. We need reinforcements. I'm not sure we can last much longer. Adams clenched her fists. Reinforcements were a distant hope. It was clear now that the humans were on their own. They had to hold out as long as they could, hoping against hope that something, anything, would tip the balance in their favor. We will hold, Adams said, her voice steady. We fight to survive. We fight for Earth. Just as she said those words, a brilliant flash of light erupted in the distance. It was one of the K'Kari dreadnoughts, its hull cracking open as explosions tore through its massive structure. The K'Kari ship had been hit hard. Did we do that? Lieutenant Haelor asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Adams leaned forward, narrowing her eyes. I don't think so. But whatever happened, it might be our chance. Get ready. We may be about to have a surprise on our hands. The first clash had only just begun, but a single unexpected turn of events had given the humans a glimmer of hope. As the K'Kari dreadnought buckled under pressure, their advantage seemed to falter. For the first time in this fight, the humans had the upper hand. The tide turns. The battle was a storm of laser beams, missile trails, and the deafening hum of engines. The humans had found an unexpected advantage in the chaos, but it was fleeting. The K'Kari were not easily deterred. As the K'Kari dreadnought exploded into space debris, a grim silence fell over the battlefield for a moment. The human ships, although battered and bruised, stood their ground. Their shields were weakening, but their will was stronger. Captain Sarah Adams' gaze never left the main view screen, her eyes scanning the chaos, calculating their next move. The K'Kari ships had hesitated when their flagship had been destroyed, but now they were regrouping. The momentary advantage had faded. The humans could not afford to waste it. Captain, Lieutenant Haelor called out from his station. The K'Kari are sending in reinforcements. A new wave of ships is coming from their home base. We won't be able to fight them all off with our current strength. Adams clenched her jaw, frustration creeping into her. She knew Haelor was right. They couldn't hold out much longer if the K'Kari kept up this assault. Her fingers tightened around the console, a sense of urgency rising in her chest. Time for a new plan, she muttered. We need to get out of here before they completely overwhelm us. Captain, Tessa, the weapons officer, suddenly shouted. There's a gap in their formation. A weak spot right in the middle. If we hit it now, we might do some serious damage. Adam's eyes snapped toward the screen. The Kiteri fleet had formed a tight perimeter around their remaining ships, but there was indeed a small gap between two of their dreadnoughts. It was risky, too risky, but the human fleet had no choice but to take it. "All ships, follow my lead," Adams said, her voice commanding. "We're going through the gap. Full speed ahead." The orders were given, and the human fleet surged forward, moving as one. The Kiteri seemed to underestimate their movement at first, but within seconds they realized the humans weren't retreating. They were advancing. The Kiteri ships began firing furiously, but the human fleet was quick, evading the worst of the blasts. The ships ducked and weaved, using the debris from the destroyed Kiteri dreadnought as cover. The humans had learned quickly that maneuvering was their best defense. Their smaller, nimbler ships had an advantage in the tight, rocky surroundings of space. "Prepare for impact," Haelor shouted, his hands flying over the control panels. "We're about to enter the gap. They'll open fire any second." The human fleet zipped through the opening, narrowly avoiding the first round of enemy fire. The Kiteri retaliated, targeting their weaker ships, but the humans' superior maneuvering saved them. And then, everything changed. Just as the humans reached the center of the Kiteri formation, a bright flash erupted from one of their lead ships. The human fleet had reached a critical point, where the damage from their previous attacks had finally taken its toll. A Kiteri vessel, smaller but faster, had made a fatal mistake. It had entered the weakened gap just as the human fleet launched a volley of concentrated fire. It was a perfect shot. The Kiteri ship exploded in a blinding flare of light. The resulting shockwave rippled through space, damaging nearby ships and sending the entire Kiteri fleet into a brief panic. "Did we do that?" Haelor asked, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Adams could hardly believe her eyes. The human fleet had broken through. A single successful strike, coupled with the Kiteri's mistake, had created a chain reaction, causing confusion and chaos among the enemy. "We didn't just do that, Lieutenant," Adams replied with a grin. "We've just broken their formation. Now, let's finish what we started." The human fleet pressed on, their morale skyrocketing with the sudden turn of events. The Kiteri were still powerful, but now they were losing their focus. As the Kiteri ships reeled from the shock, the human fleet found their opening. The humans knew this was their best chance to strike. "All ships, target the Kiteri's engines," Adams ordered. "We take out their engines, and they're dead in the water." The human fleet responded immediately. Their weapons began to fire again, this time with more precision. The Kiteri, realizing their vulnerability, attempted to regroup, but it was too late. One by one, the Kiteri ships fell, their engines crippled and their battle plans in ruins. Adams watched in silence, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it, the turning point. The Kiteri had made the mistake of underestimating humanity, and now they were paying the price. "Captain," Haelor said, his voice filled with disbelief, "we're actually winning." For a moment, everything seemed to pause. The human fleet, battered but still standing, had managed to turn the tide of battle. But the fight was far from over. The Kiteri were relentless. Even now, their remaining ships were gathering for one final desperate push. "We've still got a long way to go," Adams said, her voice calm. "But for now, we've earned this moment. Let's make sure they never forget the price of underestimating humanity." The human fleet, their confidence restored, prepared for the next wave. The Kiteri had made a fatal mistake, but the war was far from over. The humans had proven their strength. And now, they would make sure the Kiteri would remember who they were truly up against. The final strike. The battle raged on, the sky above the human fleet lit by the chaotic streaks of explosions. The Kiteri, battered and bruised from the humans' relentless counterattack, were far from finished. They had retreated to regroup, but their desperation was clear. The human fleet had broken their formation, inflicted heavy losses, and forced them into a defensive position. But the Kiteri were not the kind of warriors to retreat without striking back. Captain Sarah Adams stood in front of the bridge's main view screen, her eyes narrowed. The Kiteri fleet was reassembling, and their anger was palpable. They had underestimated the humans once, and they were determined not to make the same mistake again. "Captain," Haelor said from his station, his voice tense, "their flagship is moving into position. They're preparing for one last stand." Adams didn't need to look at the screen to know what he meant. The Kiteri flagship was enormous, a behemoth of technology, the heart of their fleet. If the humans could destroy that ship, the battle would be won. But that would not be easy. The flagship was heavily shielded and armed with weapons capable of turning even the human ships to dust. "We've got one shot at this," Adams muttered, her voice low but resolute. "We strike before they can finish their preparations. Full speed ahead. All ships, prepare for a final offensive," she commanded. The human fleet responded immediately, forming up and accelerating toward the Kiteri flagship. The last wave of Kiteri ships fired their weapons, attempting to slow the human advance. Missiles flew. Energy blasts cut through the dark void of space, but the humans were determined. "Brace for impact," Tessa, the weapons officer, shouted as the human fleet dodged the incoming attacks. The hull of their lead ship shuddered under the force of a near miss, but they held steady, cutting through the Kiteri defenses like a knife through butter. "We're almost there," Haelor yelled, his hands flying across his controls. "Get ready to fire all weapons on my mark." The Kiteri flagship loomed large on the screen now, its massive guns pointed directly at the humans. It was a massive gamble. The humans were closing in, but the flagship's weapons could obliterate them with a single shot. But the humans had something the Kiteri didn't count on: unpredictability and heart. "Now," Adams yelled. In an instant, the human fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, missiles, and concentrated fire poured toward the flagship. The Kiteri returned fire, but their weapons were slower to react as the humans hit them from multiple angles. It was a brutal, intense exchange. The human ships dodged and weaved, firing with deadly accuracy. The flagship's shields flickered under the assault. The Kiteri tried to retaliate, but it was too late. The humans had placed all their chips on this one attack, and their focus paid off. A massive explosion ripped through the Kiteri flagship. The flagship's outer layers disintegrated under the intensity of the human fire. The Kiteri flagship, once invincible, was now burning in space. The battle fell silent for a moment, the space around them filled with the eerie glow of the ship's destruction. But the silence didn't last long. The remaining Kiteri ships, now leaderless and in disarray, began to retreat, unable to fight without their flagship. "We did it," Haelor said, his voice full of awe. Adams allowed herself a small smile, but it was quickly replaced with focus. The battle was not over. The remaining Kiteri ships were still dangerous, and the human fleet had already taken heavy damage. "Stay alert," she said. "We've won this fight, but the war is far from over." The Kiteri fleet was retreating now, but they would not forget this defeat, and the humans knew that this victory would be but a chapter in a much larger story. The Kiteri would return, but next time, the humans would be ready. Adams watched as the last of the Kiteri ships jumped into warp speed, disappearing into the dark void of space. The human fleet had survived. They had proven that they were not just survivors but warriors in their own right. And the galaxy had seen that no one, not even the mightiest of empires, could crush humanity. The human fleet, though battered, stood proud. The crew members exchanged looks of victory, but Adams knew that they had only begun to show their strength. Earth had been underestimated for far too long. "We're not done yet," she said, her voice strong. And with that, the human fleet turned back toward Earth, knowing that the Kiteri would not soon forget the price they had paid for underestimating humanity.